What's up, YouTube? I'm the Nerd Boy with Nerd Boy PCs, tuning in with another one. Now, piggybacking off my last video, I gave you guys what is the OSI and TCP IP. Now, in this video, I want to give y'all TCP IP version 4 whiteboard breakdown. Okay, so here we go. On the last video, remember OSI, like what is OSI, what is TCP IP? This video, I'm actually giving you the breakdown of what TCP IP version 4 actually is and what are a lot of the different components that, is within it. And I will actually go into more detail about the OSI and the different layers and how TCP and UDP is within that and what it actually does and I'll be drawing out the figures and everything for you all to see, how it actually works. Whiteboard breakdown. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's talk TCP IP. Okay, first start with TCP. Okay, TCP IP, right? Okay, TCP IP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. Now, the components within TCP, TCP IP is a protocol suite. There's many components inside, many protocols, there's many things that TCP does. I'm going to give you guys the basic of TCP IP to give you a complete understanding of many components that works within TCP. Now, the first thing to understand in TCP IP is actually IP, right? So in IP, each computer on the network, on the internet, has to have an IP address. And what that means is every PC has to have an IP address. It looks like this. So let's say 192.168.2.1, right? Or let's say 10.1.0.2, right? And these are all different octets, right? Okay, so let's say this is one computer. Let's say this is one PC and this is one PC. Every PC on the network has to have an IP address in order to signify itself as a PC, right? Now the next thing is subnet mask. So a subnet mask is let's say, okay, so you have a network and let's say it hasn't been subnetted, right? And you have 500 computers on your network, right? Now, if you have 500 computers on your network and the network has not been subnetted, that means all 500 computers can all talk to each other at the same time. So that's like one big disaster, right? Because all the PCs are just yelling all at one time, right? So meaning they all just broadcasting. And that's a complete habit for a network, right? So that's why we have subnet mask. A subnet mask will break up this 500 computers, and let's say we will put it, let's say, break it down to 250 for one subnet, and then another 250 for another subnet. So now you have two subnets now. So that's subnetting, right? And to go a little further, the next thing you would need on each subnet would be a default gateway. Right? So you're going to need a default gateway on each subnet. And what that does is, let's say you have what. First off, a default gateway is what they call a router, right? That's your router, right? Now, what happens is, let's go a little further, a little deeper. Let's say this is one subnet, right? And these are your computers inside, right? Now, you have a router that is connecting, or that's breaking up this subnet. So here's your router. Okay, somebody just tweeted, I think. So you have, this is your router, this is your subnet, this is your internal, or let's say your local, this is your local network, right? That kind of look crazy. This is your local network, right? Or your internal network. And let's say this guy here, he is a PC within this subnet, on this network, right? Now, he wants to reach, let's say, a website or something like that. Now, let's say that website is msnbc.com. And what he's going to do is, he's going to send out a broadcast, right? And he's going to check every PC on the network or on this subnet. He's going to ask them all. He's going to go through each and every last one and say, hey, do any of you guys have msnbc.com? Of course, they're going to say no, right? So in order for him to get to msnbc.com, he's going to have to go to the router, right? So he's going to go to the router and ask the router for msnbc.com because he doesn't see it nowhere on the internal network. So the router is going to go on the other side, and of course it's going to check what is called the server first, right? And if it's not there, then the router is going to go to the internet. And that's always that big cloud there. And it's going to get msnbc.com, and it's going to give it back to this guy. And now he has msnbc.com. So in the event, and I know that I'm right about that, but I could be wrong about the server part. The server part, the computer itself might check the server first because it's also on the internal network. But just, to be sure, you can double check that. But more than likely, this guy is going to check all the PCs and possibly check the server first, and before he actually check the router. And I think that's how it works. But I know that if he cannot find msnbc.com at all on the internal network or anywhere on the local server or whatnot, it's going to ask the router next, right? And then the router is going to go out to the internet and find msnbc.com. It's going to come back and it's going to give it to this guy. Now, let's say one of these guys actually needs it now, right? Say this guy needs msnbc.com now. He's going to check the internal network, and of course, he's going to realize, of course, this guy is going to say, hey, I have msnbc.com. Here it is, right? And then he does not have to go out to the router, and then the router doesn't have to do all that because msnbc.com is already in the internal network. Now, that's TCP/IP. Remembering that every device on the network has to have an IP address to signify itself as a device, right? And every network has to have a subnet mask, which means it has to be subnetted in order to break up the communication between the devices, and every subnet has to have a default gateway, which is the router. And every router basically provides a gateway, which is like the gate around your house, or let's say your front door, right? It has to have a gateway that provides access to the outside world, which is the internet. Now, that's TCP. That's how TCP works. That's TCP/IP. Now, moving forward, TCP/IP is a protocol suite, and TCP is on layer 4. TCP is layer 4 on the OSI, right? And IP is layer 3. Now, to move a little further within the OSI, I thought I was going to give you guys the actual breakdown for TCP/IP within OSI and how that works. So, let me see here. How I'm gonna put this. TCP/IP within the OSI. Okay, so remember the first thing is always IP, right? So what happens is you have this PC, right? This is your computer, right? And this is also a computer. Okay? And what happens is you have to, with IP always have to start working first. IP, what it does is it establishes a connection between PCs, right? So once IP establishes the connection between each PC, let's say this is PC 1, and so this is PC 1, this is PC 2. Now, once the PCs has established the connection through the internet protocol, which is IP, now you have what they call a windowing process, right? Well, the next thing is the windowing process, and what handles that is TCP. So after IP does its job, then TCP is going to come in, right, and do its job, and it's going to start windowing. Is what they call that. And windowing is basically done in a way for the communication. So let's say for data. So this is now where the data is being transferred, right? So this is the data transfer. The windowing process establishes the data transfer. So IP establishes the connection, right? So you could say like the 3 handshake, or the send, acknowledge, send, acknowledge, acknowledge, or whatever, right? So it established the connection, right? And then you have TCP that actually does the windowing phase and starts the data transfer. And how that works is, let's say we're downloading something, or we're sending some information, and you see that buffer, or where your screen is actually in a loading phase, right? When you see your system loading, and it's like you have that little bar that's actually going from one end to the next. Let's say it's going a little bit, then it go a little bit, then a little bit, then a little bit, and then it go a lot, and then it go a little bit, and then it just go like that until it's done. That is the actual windowing process that TCP is establishing the data transfer. So meaning you also have the other phase where you might have those little circles that actually just keep spinning, and it might go slow, and then it'll spin, and it's slow, and then it'll speed up. It's the same thing. It's just a new way of visualizing that bar. It's the same thing. And that's what they call buffering, or loading. So they call that buffering or loading or so forth, right? And that's what the windowing phase is. That's the data is being sent from one device to the next, and that's what they call windowing. But it's actually done in a way where, let's say we can break it down a little further as far as like megabits or gigabits or gigabytes or whatnot. So what happens is you have that let's say you have that table that says like the binary table, and it's 128 64 32 what is it 16 8 4 2 1. So yeah, you have that 128 64 32 16 8 4 2 1, right? And this is another discussion, but I'm just going a little deeper for you all to give you an actual breakdown of the windowing phase for TCP. Now, what happens is your device, PC1, right? Let's put it, let's say, yeah, from start over here. PC1, right, will actually send information, right, to PC2, right? And it already established the connection with IP, so now it just have to send information. So what's going to happen is, let's say it's going to say, it's going to do the windowing, right? It's already established the connection, and then now it's going to send information. So the first thing it's going to do is going to send one packet to PC2, right? It's going to send one packet. PC2 is going to send an acknowledgement. PC2 is going to send an acknowledgement that he has received packet 1, right? It's it's gonna send that acknowledgement, and then okay, PC1 is gonna say, okay, you received that. So now I'm gonna double it up, and I'm gonna send 2 packets, right? So PC2 is gonna say I received packet 2, right? He received packet 2, right? And then PC1 is going to say, okay, well, you received packet 2. Now I'm going to double up, and I'm going to send you 4 packets, right? So each time it's going to keep doubling. And PC2 is going to say, I received packet 4, right? And then you're going to double up. You're going to send 8. And then you're going to send 16. And then in the event that a problem happens in between, let's say PC2 says, hey, I didn't receive packet 16, right? You're going to say, I didn't receive packet 16. And what's going to happen is he's going to stop the process, right? And then once he stopped the process, then now he's going to start over again, right? He's going to start over again, and he's going to send all of these packets again, but he's going to stop at 16, right? So that way, this PC2 won't miss out on anything, right? It's going to send everything all over again, but it's going to stop here. No, I said that wrong. Since he already established these guys, right? He's going to stop the buffer, but then he's going to start resending from packet 16. That's what he's going to do. He's going to start back sending from here. And then once this, he starts to confirm, once PC2 starts to confirm, hey, I received packet 16, then he's going to start doubling up again, and then doubling up again, and then doubling up again. Because TCP is connection oriented, it's going to make sure that they keep resending the packets in order to actually start the connection. So if a problem still comes and exists again, then he's going to start to send them all over again, just to show the overhead of connection oriented, and then continuous sending the packets over and over and over again. This way, PC2 does not lose any data at all. But just know the windowing phase, it starts at 1, then 2, then it doubles to 4, then 8, and then 16, and then 32, 64, then 128, and then it keeps going and keep going and keep going, and it can be however big the actual data packet is. So it can be, the data packet can be, let's say this is a 1 gig or 2 gig file that you got to send over. It's going to keep going and keep going until it gets to that 1024, I believe. And then if it's more than that, then it'll double, right? And then it'll be 2048, right? And just know that it's always going to be within that octet of 8, right? To be sure that it's getting all this data. So that's TCP IP, and that is today's lesson for today. I'm the Nerd Boy with Nerd Boy PCs. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, TCP IP is a protocol suite. It is multiple protocols. And remember, IP, every device has to have an IP address to signify itself as a device. Each subnet mask means subnetting the network to break up the communication between devices. Each subnet always has to have a default gateway. The default gateway provides communication to the outside world, which is the internet, to get information. And yeah, TCP is layer 4, IP is layer 3. Remember, TCP is connection oriented. IP establishes the connection. TCP does the windowing process. It transfers the data. That's that loading phase that we were talking about. And this right here is the actual windowing process and how it works and how it sends the data within the binary chart and so forth. Yeah, that's that. I'm the Nerd Boy with Nerd Boy PCs, and thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button. Okay? And I'll catch you all on the next one.